Hi, friends. Hello, the world. Welcome back to this episode of Tools for Transitioning Humanitarians. And in this episode, I wanted to talk to you about a specific question that I have been discussing with some of my clients, and I will give you one of the examples of what that is as to how not to compete. And I know that we use competition as a tool to I guess we believe that competition will help us progress, to help us be better at what we do, to help us be productive, to help us basically advance in whatever we're doing, right? So I think this is what we have been trained to believe, or we have been taught to believe, or we just feel like we don't have a choice to compete, not to compete. So therefore, we have to compete with others, with the world, and some of us even use competition as a way of why we shouldn't be moving out of um, where we are because the competition is fierce, right? So therefore, I think we have a lot of different thoughts about competition, and I wanted you to really think what is behind all of this, basically. Really think how competition is influencing your decisions, how it is influencing your daily life, how it's influencing your experience of your work, experience of your life at work, and all of this. And I really wanted to bring awareness to you so that you then decide what to do with it. So the reason why I'm saying is that how not to compete is because I was looking at competition from different perspectives. I was looking at, okay, let's imagine and assume that competition has good elements that we as humanity maybe want to use and utilize, right? So some of the good things that I can think of that may be useful are being better at the skills that we have, being better at owning those skills so that we can perform better and do things better. Therefore, there is that element of it, right? So we tend to do that, especially in competition with other people, with other colleagues, or maybe with other teams. We do that so that maybe we learn all the things of what we're not good at or we're not as good as them. And therefore, we want to improve, we want to get better at it. Maybe there is some advantage to it. Even though, of course, we could argue that we can hone our skills and we can do things better without having the competition or without having the need to compete with others. But that's, of course, I leave it up to you to decide. So that is one of the elements that we can see how that could be beneficial. Another elements that you can maybe think about is like the entertainment element or the element of creating joy and fun by competing with others on teams or sorry on um, uh, games and gaining some unity through this, gaining some team spirit growing by doing things together, by overcoming difficulties together with another team. So I can see some elements to that to create the joy, to create the sense of urgency, to create a lot of emotions that we otherwise may not have, right? So therefore, I can see that those advantages of creating competition or being in the competition. Now, I think a lot of the times we don't really think about the downsides of competition, or we don't really think about why are we even in the competition? What are we trying to gain out of competition? Or sometimes maybe we have the feeling of we don't have a choice but to compete because that's how it is, right? So therefore, I want to introduce here one of the examples that I was discussing with one of my clients. One of my humanitarian clients about what's happening in her work, and she was talking to me about another colleague who is in a parallel position and how she feels like she needs to defend her work or she needs to defend the areas of work and she feels like she's being attacked by the other person by saying that, oh, I need to I think I should take over some of your responsibilities, right? The other person says this, and therefore she feels the need to attack, or she feels the need to defend, and basically keep reminding the other person that you cannot do that, but then the other person keep being the other person, and therefore she feels in this a lot of pressure, a lot of this tension, and a lot of this not enjoying the work because of this feeling of, okay, I need to be on the watch out, I don't trust, and um, I need to keep explaining to her why and how these are my responsibilities, and I don't want to give up those responsibilities because I like them. So therefore, this feeling of not enjoying the work, not enjoying what is happening because of this feeling of um, insecurity, right? Essentially, feeling of insecurity of, okay, what will happen if she takes over some of the my work and all of this. And and I think oftentimes competition leads us to that, but we just don't want to maybe recognize it, or maybe we don't want to um, acknowledge that that's what's happening for individuals. And therefore, we just keep believing, I think we keep wanting to push through that competition is a good thing. We keep wanting to somehow defend competition by saying that this is just how it is and it can't be any other way. And we just have to just be on board and continue competing with others, continue defending, continue attacking, and basically continue being in this game or in this level of discussion on whose territory it is and who's in charge of this and who's not in charge of this, and keep having that conversation because it's just part of our work. This is how I think we believe, and therefore we just continue in this vein of being insecure, feeling tired, feeling exhausted, feeling like always needing to hold on to something, always needing to defend something, or always needing to attack something. And therefore, I wanted to just show you with this example of the disadvantages and actually things that are wrong with competition from that perspective to say, I think beyond the effects on the individual, right? Beyond the effects of this competition on the individual, of how, in this case, my client was feeling of feeling tense, feeling exhausted, feeling nervous, feeling afraid, feeling insecure, and beyond all of these things. But then also think about the disadvantages for the greater good that we're wanting to create. Because what is happening is that when we're in competition mode, we're not really thinking about the people that we're wanting to serve, it seems. It's more like who's going to win in this thing, right? Who's going to win? Is this going to be us or them? Basically, what I don't like about competition is that sense of division, that sense of creating us versus them. And in some ways, maybe it leads to some unity within the team, and I don't deny that. But at the same time, I think if we're looking at bigger organizations or teams that are trying to all achieve the same goal, then creating those divisions of us versus them may not really serve the common purpose, right? That's, I think, one of the biggest disadvantages that I see beyond the effect on the individual. And therefore, the question becomes, do we really want to be competing? Or the other question you could ask is, why do you have the need to compete? Another way to ask the question could be, why do you have the need to attack the other person for territorial, like for having your own territory of what you are supposed to do or what you want to do or not? Why do you have the need to attack? Or also, why do you have the need to defend yourself? Now, you could argue with me by saying that, well, Estelle, it's not like we cannot ever compete because it's actually the problem with the person. If she or he is feeling insecure, then they need to like get over things, or they need to work through those things so that we can continue having a healthy competition, whatever that healthy is, right? In quotes. And I can see that, but at the same time, are we not trying to create a society where we are looking at the differences of people, where we're um, giving space for people to evolve, to grow in the individual, unique ways that they are, and also recognizing that we don't all start from the same level of baseline of education, same level of confidence, same level of security or safety, right? So we all have different ways of growth in those areas. Therefore, it would be unfair for us to just assume that everyone get along and being and able to create and contribute to that healthy competition, whatever that is. So that's why I don't think that's realistic to even expect that or think about it. Therefore, the question then becomes, what if we don't need to compete? What if competition is not necessary? In other words, what if you didn't compete? How would that option work? Right? And that's the option that I really want to explore with you more because I think we don't really give um, enough, what do I say, enough consideration for how not to compete. Because I think where many of us have been trained in the society of we need to compete, and if we're not willing to compete, then we just need to get away and go somewhere else. And somehow I think that has been, I know that many of people have criticized as being capitalistic and all the other things. And I don't want to get into those big words, but I'm more interested on the individual level of recognizing for yourself, each of us, right, for ourselves, recognizing what is the effect of competition on myself currently? How do I see that? Do I like it? And if I don't, how do I not compete, but still achieve and want and create what I want? And this is what I'm really more interested about. And I want you to explore certain ways with me to understand for yourself what could be the alternative to not competing. How could that look like? That's what I want to describe more to you. Because the way that I have experienced competition in my own life and the way that my brain immediately reacts to competition by going to the default position, which is coming to the fear, and by feeling threat and competition, I think represents threat to my brain. And as soon as it feels a threat, it starts reacting in ways that I wouldn't have otherwise reacted. And therefore, I personally don't like competition for that purposes, and I don't compete in any way, and I don't allow myself to just even entertain the idea of competing with other people. Because I feel like if I do compete, then I'm not really recognizing the uniqueness of each individual, of their pace, of their way of thinking, the way of feeling, the way of acting, and therefore it's not really fair for me to just assume that everyone wants to be in competition or I want to be in competition because that serves me. I don't really see that. I don't feel competition serves me in any way for myself personally. So if you have decided, let's say, that competition is not for you, or you don't want to be competing because that's not really helping you advance in any way, and also feeling like I was feeling that I can hone on my skills, I can get better at everything of what I do without having the need to compete with someone else. And in that case, then question is how not to compete, right? How not to compete and not give in to um, the enticement or triggers of wanting to compete. Now, in this case, the way that I see that I have experience for myself is no matter how the other person is trying to compete with others or the other person is trying to attack, like in this case of my client's example, right? No matter what the other person is doing, we are always in charge of how we react to that, right? We're always in charge of how we react to that. The initial or the immediate reaction that many of us may feel is replicating what the other person is doing. In other words, if we feel the attack, we feel like defending, right? That's like the immediate reaction that many of us um, feel immediately without even realizing it. But that's not the way probably many of us want to react to those type of situations. Many of us probably want to react out of this feeling calm, feeling empowered, feeling peaceful, feeling confident to say, no, this is how I do things. This is how I have been doing things, or this is how things are done the way I know it. And if you have any issues with it, we can discuss it. If you're not up for it, we can leave it as this. But if you have a problem, then you find a solution and let me know if you don't want to discuss it with me, right? So I see it more of the competition or the way that other people start attacking or challenging us in some ways can just be an invitation to believe in ourselves more, to believe in what we're doing, and to communicate that better to the other person without feeling the need for defensiveness. Because if you think about it, defensiveness, if we're trying to defend or if we have the need to defend ourselves or our work or our territory or our TORs, whatever it is, right? If we have the need to defend all of that, then the question is, why are we feeling defense, right? Probably because we're not really believing something about what we're doing or how we're doing or about ourselves, maybe. So we feel insecure. So if we're feeling insecure, the question is, why are we feeling insecure? And as I said, because of certain things that we have evaluated along the way to say that this is who we are, even though maybe that's not really true, but we just believe something that makes us insecure instead of believing something else that actually makes us secure. So that's why whenever we have the need for feeling defensive, we could just get curious as to, ooh, why am I feeling insecure? What is it happening? What is the insecurity telling me, right? Maybe I'm insecure because um, I think that I'm not really good at doing this. Maybe I am insecure because I believe somehow that the other person is better than myself. Then the question becomes, why do I think that? Right? Why do I think this? Um, or why am I not believing in myself as much as I'm believing about the other person? These are amazing questions to explore and get curious about. And I was actually discussing with another of my amazing clients today about um, why do we not just believe certain things about ourselves, even though intellectually we understand that there is some truth to it, but many of us have difficulty internalizing it. Many of us have difficulty really feeling that that's what it is, that's the truth of who we are. But instead of doing that, we get into this um, games of competing with others, defending and offending them or attacking them. And then we just get so busy in all of those things that we don't have a chance to really explore our insecurities. And by the way, this applies to people who are attacking as well, because we believe that attacking is just those attackers or people who attack us just have all things figured out and they're just so confident and da da da. And therefore, they want to just attack and grab more opportunities and more responsibilities so they can look good. But then the question is, why are we trying to look good? Or why are we trying to prove those things? Right? I'm assuming because of some insecurity again. Why are we trying to be so more powerful or trying to be more in charge of all the things? Why? Maybe we have the feeling of something is missing. Maybe we have the feeling of it's not good enough. Maybe we have the feeling of I'm insecure, so I need to be attacking so that no one sees what's actually going on. Right? So that's why whether it's attacking or defending, the question always is, what do we need to believe about ourselves, about what we're doing, so that we don't really entertain these insecurities? We don't really entertain these insecurities of who's better, who's good, who's smarter, who's doing what better than the other. Instead, we really focus on how we want to serve the people that we want to, right? Is not in the end the goal. So that's why I feel the biggest disadvantage of entertaining competition and wanting to be in competition and keep just struggling with the competition. The biggest advantage I see is that we're not really addressing the insecurities that we have about ourselves, about our work, so that we can focus on the people that we want to really serve instead of keep making things about ourselves, keep making things about, oh, why I'm this and why I'm that. And then those questions don't really lead anywhere. And therefore, we just keep believing that why they're better than us or why this and why that. And those don't really get anywhere anyway. So therefore, we just keep like increasing the level of insecurities more and more by competing more and more. And that just bring us down to exhaustion and uh, the feeling of it's never good enough. And therefore, we never arrive where we want to because we always have to keep working and doing more and doing things, da, 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 and to the point that we're just like going to a pension and then everything is gone. And I feel like humanity and humanitarians, we are amazing human beings who have so much to contribute, who have so much passion, who have so much to serve those people who are really in need, who are really in insecurity, who are really needing certain help now. And we know that. And if we really want to serve them better, if we really want to create the impact we want to in the world, if we really want to make the difference in the world, then it has to stop being about ourselves. It has to stop being this competition of who's better than who, or who's defending, who's offending, who's attacking. In like, we need to just remove all of that. And that's why I would love for my amazing humanitarians to save the energy, to save the all the suffering, to save all the exhaustion. I would love to like show you, or I would love to help you understand and reflect for yourself as to, do you really need to be in the competition? Do you really even want to be in the competition? Because if the answer is yes, amazing, let's go for it. And if you want to be in competition and you feel like it's serving you, great. But if it's not the case, then decide, how do you not want to be in competition? And one of the best ways you can do that is really look at, why do I have the feeling of defensiveness? Why do I want to defend? Why do I want to like defend my territory, my TOR, my whatever, right? Why do I have this need to do that? The same you can ask for yourself if you are in the attacking position, right? Why do I have the need to attack someone? Why am I having this feeling? And then you can then get curious what's coming up. Why are you feeling this defensiveness? Probably because you are feeling like the other person is this and I'm this, or whatever the versions of that. Or I'm not good at this, or I'm not this. And we have all of these stories of that, right? And then decide, do I really want to keep having these thoughts, keep having these opinions about myself? Why do I want to do that? And if not, what other opinions I want to believe about myself? What am I good at it? And what if I'm not good at something? How do I get better at it? Right? These are the better and useful questions to ask and also answer and start working towards. So instead of keep reacting and replicating what the other person is doing, decide, how do you want to react to that? Decide how do you want to react to that in advance or in that moment. Even if you have a slight feeling of defensiveness or wanting to attack back, or even if you have this urge, don't give in to that urge, but rather breathe, and then remember how you have decided to react to those situations. Not what your fear brain wants you to react, which is like just doing the same thing the other person is doing, which you don't want them to do, but instead, okay, I want to stay empowered, powerful. I want to stay confident. I want to express whatever I want to do out of this calm, confident, um, loving energy to say, no, this is how I do. This is what I do. This is how I do. This is how I like to do. This is what I want to do because of these reasons. And therefore, if you're not happy with it or if you have questions, let's discuss it. And if you don't want to, that's okay. But if you want to propose other solutions, I'm ready to hear. But until then, this is how things are done. Yes, this may not be satisfying for you, but then you let the other person decide how you want to deal with that dissatisfaction, right? Do you see what I'm seeing? I mean, instead of spending all of this energy on, oh my God, how and what and where and being vigilant and being always like this, trusting our abilities, trusting ourselves, trusting our opinions of ourselves, being the professionals, being the people who can say and communicate these things without having the need to compete with the other person. And the same goes for people who are wanting to transition and who is afraid of transitioning. The same goes for you is why do you need to use so much fierce competition or whatever the fears about competition against yourself by not moving to what you want? Right? Why are you giving so much power to that competition to the other people to a point that you make yourself so powerless that you're not even going for what you want? Why would you do that to yourself? And if you don't want to do that, then instead of focusing on that competition outside and everywhere else, focus on what do you want to do and how do you want to do it? What do you need to work on in order to get to what you want to? Instead of entertaining insecurities, instead of entertaining defensiveness feelings, instead of trying to figure out the tactics of how to defend better and all of those things, which I feel is not useful. So that's why, my dears, I really, really want to help you to get to this place where you don't feel the need to defend, you don't feel the need to attack, and you don't feel the need to just keep entertaining your insecurities, but instead deciding how you want to work on those insecurities, how you want to believe, what do you need to believe in order to stop creating those insecurities, and how do you want to react to those things, to those competitions consciously, on purpose, instead of just giving in to the fear and giving in to the insecurities. So I really, really want to like encourage you to apply all of the questions that I have said and also reflect on this and decide for yourself. Where do you stay currently in terms of those competition and how much that competition is influencing you? And if you don't like that, decide to change now and come work with me to get you to the level where you're not afraid of that competition anymore. And instead, you continue pursuing what you really want, what's really true to you, and what really matters to you. Thank you so much. Have an amazing week, and I will speak to you very soon.